to fill in for her. She might join us later. So we're here today as Fall Line Working Group, March 6th. Welcome, everyone. I'm Barb. I don't think we need to go around with introductions. We all know each other. But if Janice, you would take roll, that would be great.
Absolutely. Let's see. Town of Ashland, Miss Amos, Miss Ragland, Chesterfield County, Miss Smith,
Here.
Hanover County, Mr. Vadunez,
Here. Here.
Henrico County, Mr. Yor,
Here.
Miss Meidler,
Here.
City of Richmond, Miss Clark, VDOT, Mr. Riblett,
Here.
Miss McAdory,
Here.
CVTA, Mr. Parsons.
Here.
Right.
Thank you. Plan RVA, Mr. Riggin.
Here.
Thank you. Solar, Miss Barrar.
Here.
Sports backers, Mr. Tyndall.
Here.
Tri-Cities MPO, Mr. Swakowski.
Here.
Virginia Capitol Trail, Miss Anthony. And, I think that concludes the roll call for attendance. I'm going to go back through and check, make sure we don't have some more people who just came in.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Mhm.
My video has a tendency to go in and out, so if I go dark, I'm still here. Are there any amendments to today's meeting agenda? All right. So the first item on our agenda is open public comment period. Have we received any comments, or is there anyone who submitted a comment on the chat? Or
No, we haven't received any requests. We do have some guests with us today. So if any of the guests would like to comment, they can put that in the chat or the Q&A.
okay. All right, we'll try to keep an eye on that. Next on our agenda is the wayfinding plan, and before we get up an update from oh my gosh, I had a mental problem from Gladys. I'm so sorry. I just want to remind everyone that this is a guidance document, kind of big picture. But Gladys has also been working with Hanover and Ashland and Henrico, since they've got sections of the Fall Line Trail that are going to be open sooner, to kind of zero in with some more specificity for those sections. But really, we need to complete what we're doing with the wayfinding plan and getting this guidance document done and ready for use, and the details as sections of trail come to fruition will be worked out at that point. All right, so Gladys, I'll turn it over to you.
Yes, so we have been working with Ashland, Hanover, and Henrico, and that gave us more definition as to what direction to take. There were some very good suggestions in terms of we have those small elements that signs that says trail continues, and there was a suggestion to instead of saying trail continues, place the arrow and say trail north and trail south. And since this particular trail is pretty much north to south, I think we probably will want to follow that direction as opposed to saying trail continues. I know that it winds sideways east-west on some small sections, but in general, the overall direction is north-south or south-north, depending on which way you're coming. Other things that we realized is that on the trailhead signs, we placed the regulations, and those regulations were just an example of general regulations. And we got some comments for example, to eliminate some signs or some lines or add some lines. So I was wondering if the regulations, if you think that they should be consistent along the whole trail, or if each section of the trail may have their own different things. Because we were discussing, for example, in the sample that we place, if you have an emergency, contact this phone number, and Henrico suggested eliminating that, but there may be sections that go through urban areas, and you don't need to have an emergency phone number. But there may be sections that go through wooded areas where there's nothing close by. So you may want to have a phone number there for a local contact if something happens while you are on the trail. So those are the kinds of things where that I think need to be discussed as a group. Then all the minutiae of each section, what the signs say or what they shouldn't say, that's not something that I think should be discussed in the big group, but we've been having meetings with Henrico, and probably we will, if needed, we will have one with Hanover and Ashland to look over those things. We got markups from the markups from Hanover, Ashland. One of the questions were some of the signs have the overhang to one side and some on the other. And the answer is depends on which side of the trail the sign is. So the part that says the name of the locality, Ashland, Hanover, Henrico, Richmond, Petersburg, Chesterfield, etc., it's over. It's always on the, how do I say it? On the inside. For example, if the trail goes this way and the sign is on this side, that section that refers to the locality is on the further left, and the information is closer to the trail, to the path. So if the sign is on this side, the information will be on the left, and the destination list will be on the right. So I don't know if that explains or answers that question, but basically that's why on the drawings you will see the signs in two different ways in terms of when you are coming north or south.
Hey, Gladys, can we interrupt you and let Joe ask a question real quick?
Yes.
Yeah, so that was my comment, and I really just wanted to get some clarification as, and let me just say it, make sure I understand. So we're referring to the pedestrian destination signs. These are the signs that display the locality's name on one edge, going up and down, and then has various destinations that extend further away from the sign. So, my concern is like the height. If we have those destinations overhanging the trail, are they going to interfere with somebody riding a bike or whatever? So what is the standard? Do we want to have those destinations overhanging the trail, or have it the other way where those destinations are extending off towards the shoulder edge? And or does it matter? It can just be, in some cases we have it one way, in the other cases we have it the other. But I was just looking for some guidance and some discussion on that point.
Yes, in general, the destinations will not be overhanging the trail. So the sign will be located in a position that the edge of the sign is never on the trail. So it's always away. But the destinations should be closer to the trail than the location or locality. So that's what I was trying to explain.
And it does move the pole further away. So if you're going to crash into something, the pole's farther away. That's kind of good. Yeah.
Yes. The pedestrian usually don't have the same as the vehicular, that have those bases that if you hit the pole, they will fall. But because they are not located in the trail per se, it's unlikely that something like that will happen. So the other thing that we talked about having a cost estimate, and I don't know if we did, based on the original plan that we had with the suggested signs for the 43 miles that we presented at the very beginning of the project, we made, let me see if I can share my screen. Okay. I don't know if, can you see my screen?
Yeah, we can.
So basically, we got a cost estimate from one of the fabricators, Superior Signs, that they worked with Appomattox River Trail. So they gave us a per unit cost. So we looked at that preliminary location that we had, and we created this spreadsheet to have a rough idea of cost. So first of all, I think we may be eliminating several signs. We usually, the way we work is from complex to simple. So for any project that we have, we put additional signs that then we may consider eliminating, because we found that it's better to work that way as opposed to the opposite, putting less signs and then having people say, oh, maybe we need a sign here too. So this, if anything, maybe a little bit over in terms of the amount of signs that we are going to plan for the trail, but it doesn't include the foundations, and it doesn't include the installation. So when we factor in signs that we may eliminate with the cost, those costs, we may be close to that general figure. So, for example, for Ashland and Hanover and for Henrico, that now we are more firming more the number of signs that we are going to have, I think we will be able to get a more accurate count. So anyway.
Yeah, I think that'll be useful information, is once a locality is actually putting some signs in, we'll be able to use those estimates or, those budgets to kind of figure out the rest. But this is a good overview. And, I got a comment. Remember colors, right? We were all over the place with colors. When you have it laid out like you do right here, the gradation of blue and then red and then the gradation of green, that's kind of cool.
Yes, I mean, the colors are not accurate because, Excel only has an array of colors. I was trying to import the Pantone colors, but it didn't let me, so it's not very
Not
accurate.
exactly right, but yeah, anyway.
Yeah, you get the spirit of what it's going to look.
Yeah.
In any case,
Oh, Todd has a question, Gladys.
yes.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt, Gladys. So question for the group, did we ever figure out how we wanted to look to fund all this sign package? Because I think we all know that it's gonna be done over a period of several years as those sections roll out. So it needs to be, I guess, ongoing funding source or phasing of funding sources. That can be a future conversation, but I think we're gonna need to kind of figure this out relatively quickly.
I think for us, we'll try to work the sign cost into the project cost. So whatever funding source we're going after, will roll in.
Just build it into that particular phase.
Mhm. But if there are, you might have, we've got projects underway that did not include the signs, so we'll have to find a source for those.
Same. Alright, what can we, I guess this is a Chetfield request. Can y'all put that on the topic for the next working group meeting? We can maybe kind of brainstorm it.
Sure, we can do that.
Thanks.
Yeah, you guys had some ideas, like can you use TAP funding for it?
Yeah, I think that's probably a possibility. I mean, depending on which locality, you could probably use STBG. But I know that we were having some internal conversations about that. I mean, obviously CBTA local is an option. Especially maybe that's the option for the projects that are already initiated where you haven't built in those costs.
Yeah.
But yeah, we can put together some options and bring that to the next meeting.
That sounds great. Brantley's got a question.
Yeah, this might be just a follow-up to what Todd just asked, but yeah, I'm curious how this will get sorted out with some sections already underway, so we wouldn't be able to apply for that funding in the initial funding versus the projects that are, being started in the next couple of years. Those will be, yeah, let's say north of Chester, it would be easy to see that those signs could be included in the initial package, but then south of Chester, how would we get those added later on?
Yeah, I think that'll be a good topic for our next meeting. I think VDOT's made it clear that, I mean, they're showing a shortfall on the southern section, so, not that it's a huge expense, but we'll need to figure that one out.
All right, going back to the wayfinding, we have not received yet from Richmond the destinations. And also working with these first two groups, we realized that when we received the destination list, there were sort of primary destinations that were on the trail or very close to the trail, and secondary destinations that are far away from the trail. So when you submit the destinations or even the ones that have already submitted, except for Ashland, Hanover, Henrico, if you want to reconsider it and separate them into primary, what you consider primary destinations and secondary destinations. So the primary destinations are the ones that are going to be on every sign. The secondary destinations are the ones that are going to be on a sign from where you can access that secondary destination in particular. And also, please consider whether we want to have secondary destinations or not. In terms of, we talked about this last meeting about how far the destination can be, and we talked about 1 mile or half mile. I think when people are reviewing the preliminary sign messaging, they are realizing that some destinations are too far away. So maybe when we go a second time around considering the destinations, we should eliminate those, or like I said, place them only on the signs that have direct access to that remote destination. So yeah, I don't know if Richmond is here in the meeting and if they want to provide a schedule for when we can have their destinations, because on Henrico, at some point we are displaying Richmond destinations on the very southern portion. So we need at least the northern section of destinations for Richmond as soon as possible.
Yeah, Phil, do you think that you could make that a goal between this meeting and next meeting to really hound Richmond to get the destinations. I know Darona's aware and she's been asking folks, they're probably busy, but if you could try to get their attention and get that done.
Yes, I will. Thank you, Barbara.
All right. And also, if all the localities can look at the regulations and maybe send in a separate file what they think they will want to see there, so that we can circulate them around and see if we find some consensus, or also express whether you think that there should be consistency all throughout the trail, or if some localities can have the main body of regulations and maybe add some local elements as they see fit.
That's sort of what I was thinking when you brought up the emergency number issue, is that maybe this wayfinding plan has regulations that work everywhere. And then each locality would put up a separate sign that has emergency contact numbers on it. Yeah, you didn't like that.
No, it's like, I think it will probably be sign pollution. As much as we can have concentrated the information on one sign, it will be better. Of course, these are aluminum signs, and some parts are changeable. I don't know if the regulations, we can add something or we need to change the whole panel, but
Maybe you could just have one of those flags for the emergency.
Yes, yeah, we can look into that, but
Okay. Sharon's got a question.
Yeah, I was just related to the trailhead, the trail rules. So like if it's an emergency, I don't know, you would call 911. So like, because we don't, like, our security, like we don't have trail security, we have security for the offices here at Parham, but like Rec and Parks, or whoever's maintaining the trail, I think 911 would be consistent. I mean, Henrico has a non-emergency number, 501-5000, but yeah, it just seems like it would be for an emergency number 911, unless other
There you
people
go.
have other things on trails. And
Good
the other
point.
And my other comment, one of the other notes was no collecting plants. And so I was just thinking, when my kids were younger, they're always picking dandelions or something along the trail or something. So, and maybe there's a stricter law or something, but that's why we had made those comments, or in my head, why I made those comments.
no, that's fine. I mean, these were, regulations that we just took from a different trail that we were using, so they may not apply. They were just like what we call FPO, for position only. So just to show, okay, this section will be regulation. So, but yes, we will eliminate the lines that Henrico suggested if they don't apply, and but if anybody feels that they want anything in particular, please just let us know.
So Gladys, you're going to send a sample out to everyone and we'll review them and send comments?
Yes.
Okay, that sounds great. Joe's got a question.
Yeah, maybe a comment. I thought, was Kat on the call?
I don't think so, not today.
Okay. Well, just kind of a thought, and Gladys kind of touched on it for a second ago, is, the CAP trail's been in place now for several years. What are they doing that is working and not working in terms of the signage? Maybe we should be looking at that as an example, since it's a connecting trail, and maybe that's been done. And shame on me, I've been on the Cap to Cap trail, but not recently. and not really kind of experiencing it with an eye towards the wayfinding is, but I know that there are those among us that have and do use that trail regularly. You know, what are they doing signage wise compared to what we're presenting here? And, you know, where are the opportunities, or where are the you know, things that we maybe are missing or should rectify in our plan?
Yeah,
So
that is a great idea to use Kat's experience to vet what we're proposing and make sure there's some consistency.
yeah, I mean, just kind of along the lines of like, wow, if we could do it all over again on the cap to cap, we would have done X. Okay. And so that's an opportunity we don't want to miss, or we regret, you know, not doing something. You know what I'm talking about? And
Yeah, and
and
Heather also with Folar, we've got an opportunity with both of those groups to learn from their experience.
and I know that we do have, you know, I call out Phil and Brantley, and there's, I'm sure, others that are really experts in this area and that have experience with other trails that they're drawing from. I don't, so forgive
Yes,
me for
right.
that. That's it.
Okay, pressure's on you guys. Brantley.
Yeah, if I may, and I did have another comment, but a quick response, and I did actually just reach out to Kat to make sure that she gets an opportunity to engage. The one of the things that we've seen, not just on the Capitol Trail, but elsewhere, is and something that I like in this plan are the higher level, what I think they're called the vehicular signs, the ones that are at eye level or a little bit higher, just from conspicuity and branding of a place. That's missing, I think, in a lot of the Virginia Capitol Trail, where a lot of it is more ground oriented, or they're more like their wayfinding signs are more at like body position, and some of them are a little they can be hard to see. Their color scheme also has a lot of green in it, so depending on the time of year, you might just ride right by it and not even notice it. So I like that the blue works really well in this case. That's, I will say, there's lots of other opportunities from like a ground oriented. I know we've done some work on looking at marking on the ground and other things like that. But from what is in this plan, I think it's pretty good. So the comment that I did want to share the other one is I think this group has determined that half-mile intervals for mile markers is the way to go. Is that correct? Are we still there?
Yes.
That's certainly a major improvement from a trail user perspective. And so the other comment was about the security issue and how we should be directing trail users to call in. I totally agree that 911 should be the general rule, but I do think in some instances the local either landowner or institution may have a specific request. I think about Virginia State University may have local security that could be quicker to respond. Virginia Union might also. Virginia Commonwealth is not super close to the alignment, but there may be other institutions along the route. So I'm happy to help think through those, but I think Virginia State in particular would like to be asked what their preference is. And thanks. I understand that your FPO comment, that we're just we have a placeholder for the time being, so appreciate that.
Hey, Phil.
Thank you. Yes, I was just going to say thank you, Brantley, for contacting Kat. If she does not join us, I'll be happy to follow up and get her opinions and everything, and maybe she'll be able to contribute for the next meeting.
Amy? I think Amy's got a comment or question.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do have a question, or I have a comment. So I'm a fairly avid but relatively new Cap Trail user. I will say that I think that having the mileage, like the thing that I really like about the Cap Trail, just as somebody who wants to know where I'm going to get to where I'm trying to get to and when. I think it's really important to have those distances. So I was trying to see on your thing, do you have the distances like, your destination is so many miles or however far feet, whatever miles. I think that's important for people to know what those distances are. That's really the biggest thing for me on the CAP trail. I mean, those signs are really simple. They're easy to see when you're riding by and okay, Shirley Vineyard is 6 miles. Okay, so I have 6 miles to get to Shirley and then, another 10 to get to Charles City, right? So I know how to pace myself. I know, like what to expect. So I think that's really important for people, especially recreational folks who may not be avid cyclists, to want to know that, have that information. I definitely am really grateful that you're putting in the mileage markers at a half mile on Elizabeth River Trail. I know when I was in Norfolk, that was a big deal just for emergency response. So I think that's definitely worth the investment and something that isn't on the CAP trail. And I oftentimes ride them, sometimes by myself or, and I wouldn't have any way to tell somebody where I am on the CAP trail really, other than just say I'm, here between these 2 points. So I think those are really important items, but I really think the signage, I think the pedestrian height signage is really good. But definitely the distances, I think is going to be really key. Maybe even some markings on the pavement. I know that's not part of this signage, but maybe just for other things to think about on the pavement, if, kind of like where you are and what's next might be something to consider in terms of the design of the trail. Okay, that's all I had. I just had to give my 2 cents on that. And there's the Cap to Cap ride coming up. If anybody wants to do that, that's happening May 10th April 10th and 11th. And then the Bike MS ride is June 1st and 2nd. That's really taking advantage of the trail. That's a 150-mile ride. So just some options for people to check it out.
Okay.
That's a robber ride.
Yeah, in response to the
May. Yeah, that's right. May 10th and 11th. Thank you. Thanks.
No, in response to the miles, actually, yes, those are going to be displayed in the signs.
Okay.
I'm glad that you reminded us because Henrico provided or will provide, is working on providing all the destinations with the mileage. So we requested that each locality provide the destinations with the mileage as well. And we are going to modify the design a little bit to include those. And also, I was thinking we didn't show it in the drawings, but I suggest that on the trails that cross streets or roads, on the pavement of the trail, we can put the name of the street or the road on both sides of before and after you cross it. So that's also helpful when people want to determine where they are, because there are sections of the trail where you go on a path and it crosses roads over and over and over, and they all look the same. We were looking at the pictures. So I think it will be useful to know exactly which road you're crossing. So that's something that can be added on the pavement as well.
Sorry, can I just make one more comment? If there's like a big major crossing, like is it Lombardy or whatever, Laburnum, that like you need to know in advance. Like you're coming down that hill, and the first time I did it, I flipped because I wasn't expecting it, and I was on a rental bike that didn't have good brakes. And anyway, I flipped. Thank God there was flex posts and not those solid concrete posts. But I do think if there needs to be like a warning ahead if there is a major crossing like that, because if you are going fast and you're not expecting it, you need to know I'm gonna have to stop. I'm gonna have to make a full stop here and not. I mean, you should anyway, but I
And
think
that
it's
might fall
important to have those
under
warnings.
more like regulation signs that should be standard with the construction of the trail, not so much wayfinding.
But yeah, that's true. Maybe that's not a wayfinding item. That's more of an informational thing. That's true. But I think it would be important maybe to consider
That's a
and have
good-
that signage still be somehow fit into the theme of things. Okay.
Yeah.
And I really do want to give a shout out to Henrico for the new bathroom facility at 4 Mile. That's going to be really awesome. So that's all.
Alright.
Thank you.
Well, if I don't know if anybody has any other comments or questions regarding wayfinding, but otherwise, I think we covered most of the things that I wanted to cover.
Okay, that sounds good. So on our list of things to do is if you haven't reviewed your destination list, do so and indicate whether the destination is primary, being that it's on or adjacent to the trail, versus secondary. And then figure out the mileage. For me, as long as the sign has a placeholder for mileage, I can figure out mileage later, you know. And then review the trail regulations that Gladys will send out. And I think that's it. Brantley?
Thanks, Barb. I had a couple of chats that I just wanted to talk, especially as we're at the summary here. I think from a destination standpoint, we shouldn't specifically limit ourselves to what is within a 1 mile or some number radius from the trail, but also consider how important a destination might be. And I think a good example might be Pocahontas State Park. It's a few miles away from the fall line in Chesterfield, but it is a spur is planned to take you at least halfway there to the government complex, and a parallel effort is trying to make the rest of the way to Pocahontas State Park. I think 1.1 million people go there every year. It's a major destination across the state. It's a reason to tell people where to get off, what exit to take, so to speak, from the fall line. And that's just, I don't think they're going to have one of those, but every few miles at the most, and the distance would definitely help. But people are going to want to know that you can take the fall line to a whole different part of the region to get to a regional destination. Green City, et cetera. Those kinds of things are going to be major destinations. The other is, this is a great, I'm really happy as an advocate looking at this plan. I think it looks awesome. I like many things. I'm concerned about the cost and how much we can get out of it. And so I just want to pitch to the group that it could be really valuable to identify lower cost, more grassroots oriented ways to do wayfinding through art, through community projects, and a way to get volunteers to do things that don't have to be $2,000 to $10,000 a pop. And one of the examples that came up was street names at crossings. I wondered if volunteers could stencil or paint that at the intersections as a service project that gets people involved and saves our regions a lot of money. So I think there's a lot of work to do if that's even approved by this group and beyond, but we want to play that role if we can.
Thanks, Brantley. All right, I think that wraps it up for the wayfinding. So next on the agenda is an update on from VDOT on the Fall Line Trail progress.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Barb. Not a whole lot of new information to provide. It's actually kind of good news. Progress is certainly continuing on Design Build 1. Folks should see construction here soon. On Design Build 2, good progress is continuing to be made on the southern alignment section. At the terminus, the alignment at the terminus. Continuing to look for advertisement later this year. That is continuing on schedule. The design build processes for finalizing the risk analysis and the finding of public interest are proceeding as we would expect right now. So at this point, proceeding as expected, I think is the best way to summarize both Design Build 1 and Design Build 2. We also did provide Chet some information on some of the background information on transfers from some of the CTB money that was generically put on fall line. So kind of a documentation of the history of where all those dollars were put on individual UPCs. Most of it went to Design Build 2, some of it went up to Design Build 1 as well. Bottom line, there's no additional dollars there. Those have all been allocated towards individual UPCs. At this point, happy to answer any questions.
I had a question. I know there are tweaks to the southern section alignment, just like you talked about. When will you be able to kind of go through that with this group to show how the alignment has changed?
I can check with Scott and see at what point that will be available and certainly get it on an agenda for you guys as soon as we can.
Yeah, that'd be great. And do you know when there'll be a public hearing for the southern section?
I don't know that we have one scheduled at this point, but that'll be my second follow-up item for you guys as well.
Okay.
Mark, this is Liz. Chet, I believe Scott sent you a either a KMZ or a GIS file earlier this week. Did that include the adjusted alignment? I can't recall.
Yes, I mean, it's a KMZ, so it's a simple line. It doesn't have segments.
Okay.
But I mean, we have that, but I had asked Scott yesterday for kind of an update to the presentation that he shared a few months back, you know,
Right.
that showed all of the impacts and he indicated that I think that he'd work on putting something together, but I'm
Yeah,
not sure.
yep.
So
I spoke with them either yesterday, I think it was yesterday afternoon, and that's the same message.
Yeah, and it's a completely appropriate follow-up from the previous presentation that was
Yep.
made. Absolutely.
yeah,
Okay.
we
All right,
did,
sweet.
Barb, we did get clarification that it's going up to Route 10. So that's the northern endpoint.
Yeah, that's good.
The caveat I would add to that is we are still looking to try and, you know, make sure that we're doing everything we can to work within the budget. And Barb, as you had pointed out earlier, current estimates are running or showing that maybe we're running a little bit high right now. So yeah, goal is to certainly get it that far. At the same time, we're trying to balance the budget issue as well. So
Yeah.
Scott's doing a good job at trying to navigate, thread the needle on that.
Okay. Yeah. So
Yeah.
we'll add Scott to the agenda for our next meeting to dive in a little bit deeper, get an update. That'd be great. Any other questions for Mark on the VDOT managed? Okay, everything's good. So next on the agenda are member updates for fall line projects. Todd?
Thank you, Barb. Real quick, Spring Park phase is under construction. They're working through muddy rain issues, so maybe it's a little slower than we would want since it's in floodplain and parts of it almost near the floodway. So, but demo has gone well. We met with sports backers, Brantley, John Lugbull, their architect. Last week was it Brantley? On site at the former Bank of America site and working on synergies between our trailhead and sports backers new facility. So I think that's gonna be pretty exciting and look really cool. So stay tuned for a future meeting. We'll come forward with some conceptual graphics of what that vision will look like. And we've started our trailhead design for that location recently. So we're gonna try to work on timing so that when sports backers is moving in towards the end of this year, that we'll have the trailhead mostly done, hopefully at that point. Otherwise, all our other sections are currently in right of way. So that's pieces are moving along, and hopefully we'll be bidding those other sections out over the course of the rest of this year.
Okay, great, thanks. Yeah, Chesterfield's got little short sections of the Fall Line Trail along Route 1 at, you know, in various phases. So PE right of way, none in construction quite yet. But one will be advertised this year, so it's only a block. But anyway, we're making progress. Any other comments? or questions last on our agenda or future topics? We talked about those as we went through. Chet?
Oh, thanks. Just one more comment. We just put in the chat that we'll share the KMZ with everybody. I mean, it's pretty basic, so don't expect much. But one of the things that we're working on, well, Plan RVA is working on, is putting together a more detailed web presence that has GIS files that kind of improve upon what's on the current Fall NBA site. And we're cleaning up and understanding after round 3 of the CVTA regional funding commitments, each segment of the fall line as it's currently envisioned, and all the different committed funds that are there, what the balance is on each section. And we're hoping to have that out there, I'd say over the next month, maybe, Phil. And that'll be something that'll be useful and maybe can be coordinated with Brantley and the Fall Line Vision website that they're putting together. So maybe we can talk about that at the next meeting too.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay.
Brantley?
Yeah, I just want to thank Plan RVA Chet for hosting our webinar last month for releasing the Fall Line Vision Plan. So if you haven't seen it, it's out. Love to talk to you about it, and appreciate everyone's time over the last year putting that together. We are preparing to hire someone at Sportsbackers to help implement some of the projects there. So a project manager or developer. If someone comes to mind, this is an early sort of request, or if you think someone is good at this kind of work, send them our way. We're looking forward to taking on additional placemaking work, and I imagine we'll be working with you a lot. So that's it.
Gladys?
Yes, one thing that came to mind and I forgot to mention is that we were discussing, for example, with Henrico on the trailheads, if there's parking, vehicular parking. So if we want to have signs pointing the drivers to that particular parking, so if the localities can provide that information. So basically, if there's parking attached to a trailhead, and if there's enough parking that it merits having a sign there.
So we need to think about potential public parking that trail users might be able to take advantage of, and consider that one of our destinations, sort of. Is that what you're after?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Anybody? Oh, yep. Todd?
Brantley was first, but since I have the floor, my question was a direct follow-up to what Gladys just mentioned. So for the trailhead parking, is part of your scope, and what you would do is just the sign at the entrance to the trailhead, or are you talking about having signs on the roadways in advance of where to turn to get to the trailhead? Because if is that something the locality should do, or would that be part of your effort?
Yes, if you look at the sign overall system, there are some vehicular signs. So usually we include in our scope vehicular signs pointing to those parking lots. So, but we will appreciate guidance in terms of the location of those signs, in terms of local regulations or how many signs you can place in a particular location. So the sign to direct people to the parking is designed. Yeah, so if that answers your question.
Thank you.
Okay. So our next meeting is April 3rd. With that in mind, let's try to get responses back to Gladys by April 20th. Nope, sorry, March 20th. And if there are no other comments or questions, we can adjourn. Thank you all for attending.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Aye.
Thank you, Barb, for running the meeting.
Yeah,
No
thanks,
problem.
Barb.
Thanks, Barb.
Thank you.